having an incurable disease, a chronic disease, is life-changing enough, but to overcome that is, you can't put it in words. You know, if people are watching this, more than likely they're watching this because either, you know, they need an answer, or that they've had enough of what they've been going through, but they'll hesitate because they'll think I'm not able for this, I'll never get through this, I couldn't do that. All the things we all think about something. And they're wrong, because if they write down or just record their voice and talk about their experiences and what they've been through with Crohn's and colitis, they'll know that they're tougher than anyone else. You know, so to do something like this is nowhere near as hard as they could possibly imagine, because the hard bit is being rushed to hospital. The hard bit is being told by a doctor you're getting a bag. The hard bit is being told that, look, you're going to an oncology ward for the rest of your days. Now, eventually your body will reject it. You'll turn into shock, God knows what else. And then we'll have to open you up. That's the hard bit, you know. So going around and eating potatoes for a few months and bananas is a cakewalk when you've been through that. So I would say to anyone looking at this and think that they're not cut out for it, think again. You've been through hell. This is nothing in comparison to what you've been through. You will be able to do it without a shadow of a doubt.
Hello everyone, welcome to another video. It is testimonial time, and I'm joined here by Declan, who is healed from Crohn's disease and is now medication and symptom free. Well done, mate, and welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Very nice. Okay, so what we'd like to do just in this interview, Declan, is just talk a little about your story, about how you were able to do the medically impossible, man, and heal, you know. So let's start from the beginning and talk about what you went through and how you found out you had Crohn's disease.
It started off really with a business trip to India, of all places, and I came back with pretty nasty food poisoning from India.
Jelly belly.
I kind of dropped the guard. I was working with some good guys, and we went off biking for the day, and of course I must have ate everything that you could see, so it was completely my fault. But what was unusual about this experience was I got well pretty quickly. Like, it was only about 2 weeks, pretty nasty food poisoning. But then about 3 months later, I fell ill very abruptly, and it was a lot worse than the first time, shall we say. And from that moment on, really, I didn't really get up out of bed. I couldn't really live a normal life, and the whole, you know, medical system thing ensued. And I guess with anything IBD related, it does take a lot of time to kind of find the culprit and know for sure if it is Crohn's or colitis or whatever. So my story only lasted, say, 5 months. So I was quite lucky compared to some other people that I've listened to and watched online. But after 5 months, they were certain it's Crohn's disease, you know, and the steroids started, Pentasa as well, other things they tried me on. Nothing seemed to work. I seemed to just have overwhelming nausea and fatigue. And then eventually I went to the big guns, the biologics. So I went to infliximab, and really that's a, you know, a really brief summary, but that was it in a nutshell, really. It was just 5 months of kind of misery of being sick, not being able to operate. And in fairness to the doctors, and I know we, myself included, we can criticize them a lot, but if the doctor had said, you know, I'll give you heroin, I would have taken it to get back into life. I would have taken anything. You know, I remember joking with a friend. I said, if I could actually get my hands on morphine, I would. I'd do anything just to feel normal again. So I was delighted to get infliximab, and I was delighted to go into an emergency ward, and I was delighted to get all these things. And it still took 3 or 4 IVs for me to get back on my feet. So the inflammation in my body was pretty nasty. But I was lucky enough that it did get me back onto my feet. But it was more the following year that ensued is what really changed my mind, kind of. As the war dragged on, I became more and more disenchanted, you know.
So talk about some of the symptoms you experienced. Like, what were you going through from a Crohn's perspective?
A really different experience to most of the guys. It initially blew up or exploded, for want of a better word, with the diarrhea and stuff. That only lasted
Mm.
a matter of weeks for me, though, and it was very infrequent. It wasn't like every
Mm-hmm.
day, 5 times a day. It was once, 2 or 3 times a day, diarrhea. But after 2 weeks, it kind of stopped and it turned into constipation. And
Right.
what was really weird about it was I could be fine 1 minute talking, chatting away to people, and it was as if somebody just came around my back and switched me off. It was like a button on my back. They just shut me down.
Mm.
Overwhelming nausea, crippling fatigue. And I could be anywhere. I could be in work, I could be on the street in town, and I would just shut down. I could barely make it home. So it was
Mm.
really, and at the back of my mind, I was always thinking, oh Christ, India, tropical disease. Did I pick something else up? I'm not
Mm.
sure. So it was always, it was always that added anxiety about, God, is this something that they don't know what it is, and I'm going to be like this for years to come. So
Yeah.
when my diagnosis of Crohn's disease, I was told, I was over the moon, absolutely
Mm.
delighted, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how long it would go on for. And I knew
Yeah.
nothing. I knew nothing about the severity of what Crohn's was. And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
I was getting transferred to America for a project for a couple of years. And all I cared about was going on this project. And I said it to
Mm.
the doctor, I said, if you can give me whatever drugs, I'll take them, I'll come back. I really had no idea what was ahead of me. Absolutely none.
Yeah.
Ignorance
Yeah.
bliss,
Yeah.
as they say. It's very true.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. Okay. So
Mm.
so you went through a year with taking the infliximab and as you said, soldiering on. Um, yeah. What happened after that?
The year was a massive transformation for me, because in that year, what I didn't realize was when you have Crohn's or colitis, really what doctors should say to you is, um, you have a choice. You have a choice
Mm-hmm.
between the severity of the disease and its symptoms and the severity of the side effects, but you
Mm.
will never be well again. And that's really what summed up that year. I was never well.
Mm-hmm.
I had rashes, infections, I had memory loss, I had, the worst was probably my hair. I lost about 2/3 of my hair.
Right.
Never mind the kind of psychological trauma of going
Mm.
through something like going to an oncology ward every 2 months. Even if you were in a good mood and did feel well, what you see in those places is just horrible,
Yeah.
and that plays against you as well. So after a year of infliximab, I ended up with no hair. Well, 2/3 of my hair was gone. I looked, you know, much older than I was. I was
Yeah.
bloated. I had acne. I just was unwell. I was lethargic. I just was
Mm.
unwell. And people were really starting to look at me like there was something I was hiding. I had
Mm.
cancer, things I wasn't telling them. And I
Right.
suddenly, as a private person, I found it impossible to hide my troubles from work and from family. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
start saying to work, look, I have Crohn's, I have this. And I never wanted to say that. So
Mm.
it was that year where I suddenly realized, God, this is the best it can be. If this is the best it
Mm.
can be, meaning the disease is in remission, but I'm spending thousands of euros on side effects, on all these other things, and this is the best it can be. If this is the blueprint of my life at its best with this disease, I'm screwed. I've no future, because I
Mm.
have some relations who are older than me, so they're more advanced in their disease, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been ambulances, it's been, like a lot of the guys on the program, it's been rushed to hospital, it's been bits of them taken off. And I just
Mm.
thought, geez, this is actually the early days. This is where, a doctor said to me, it's you're not that severe. This is actually not too
Yeah.
bad. And I
Yeah.
thought, if this is the best, no way. There has to be another solution to this. There just has to be.
Right. And so
So,
I'm assuming you started looking for options, other alternatives, or yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was probably another 6 months after that, the brakes started to go on. And
Yeah. Yeah.
what I found as well is that, Jesus, as you better than anyone know, and Sham knows, is you suddenly realize it's all a game. It's all a game. It's trial and
Mm.
error. Nobody, the medical profession most certainly doesn't understand these diseases. So they
Mm.
try you on this, they try you on that, and see how you go. And then when
That's
you
right.
look
Yeah.
at the drugs, because I honestly, I was an emu. I put my head in the sand. I didn't want to know about, Crohn's. I didn't want to know about anything about infliximab. So when I
Mm.
started to look at these drugs, I started to go, sweet Jesus, like this stuff is serious. And other people were dying of colon cancer and everything. And I kind of thought, my God, this is a lot worse than I imagined. And There's no way. If after a year it's done this to my body, can you imagine another 2, 3 years? So I ended up going on to Entyvio because I started to get, obviously the hair was a big problem and stuff. And I
Mm.
went on to Entyvio, and then I got other side effects. But what I found was on speaking to doctors is it's all a guess. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these drugs have been designed for other diseases. So
Mm.
just very slowly, it was probably a bit like being the grunt in the war, in Vietnam. You started to lose your motivation and morale. And I kind of thought, God, I'm being led down the garden path here. I mean, nobody really knows what they're doing. And these
Mm.
drugs are not messed with. And it was really at that point, I remember after probably another 6 months of that, I became ill again. I had a flare. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
right, after 18 months of this crap, and now I've
Mm.
had a flare, this is enough now. And I literally spent a whole weekend scouring the
Mm.
internet. And then I came across you guys, the website.
You found the
And that was
website.
it. That
Yeah.
was it. Yeah. That was really it. Though I watched every testimonial, which is a reason I'm doing this today. And
Mm-hmm.
that was it. There was no going back after that moment for me. Just no going back. No way.
Yeah. And so, what went through your head when you started seeing like stories of people healing and finding out this information?
The first sensation that I hadn't had for 2 years, hope.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. In a single word, hope. I had
Mm-hmm.
forgotten what hope was. I'd
Mm-hmm.
forgotten about thinking about the future. I live by the week, not by the year or any kind of future. So that
Mm.
was a massive thing. It was just this feeling of hope, of a sense of I'm going to be free of this. Because you really do in your mind, you resign yourself to the fact that you're going to be sick for the rest of your life. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
very daunting and depressing thing that subconsciously it becomes you because everything you
Mm.
do, even when I went on holiday, I was nervous. Will I make it? Will I be okay? What if I get sick? So you end up bringing my bags were bigger than female friends I was going away with. I looked like the prima donna in the group. I had about three, wheelie bags all stuffed with a variety of creams and potions and emergency numbers. And also, if you even feel slightly off, you start to worry,
Mm.
oh, Jesus, it's the Crohn's, it's the Crohn's. It probably isn't. But
Yeah.
it dictates life. And I don't care what anyone says, it dictates your life.
Yeah.
And certainly when I saw the testimonials, I really, with the sense of hope, came freedom from fear. And I think that was a big statement
Mm.
I used a lot, even in my own notes and stuff. Freedom from fear, just
Mm-hmm.
not wanting to live in fear anymore. And I
Yeah.
hadn't realized how accustomed I'd become to living in fear. It's a horrible place to live, really horrible.
Mm.
So that was a huge thing. Watching the testimonials was a real moment for me. I think it was finally I'd found the water in the middle of the desert kind of thing.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so you obviously reached out and had a chat to Shamiz, and what did he
Yeah.
tell you in that chat?
What I loved about that conversation with Cham was, um, and this was definitely a seller for me, was the fact that he wasn't trying to sell anything. He came across very relaxed, and what I found about him was he was the one asking me all the questions, and
Mm.
it felt more like, "Are you ready for this, Declan? Are you
Mm.
sure? Is this what you want to do?" There was nothing in it like, "Oh, don't worry, Dec, come on board, we'll get you back. Oh, it's going to be brilliant." There was none of that. It almost felt like an interview,
Mm.
and that was brilliant for me because I kind of thought these guys are the real deal. This is legitimate. This is very
Mm.
much legitimate. I got a sense off the testimonials how legitimate it was anyway. But when I spoke to him, I was like, God, he's very laid back. There was nothing rushed or, pushy about him. It was
Mm.
simply, okay, this is what we do briefly. But why are you here? How did you find us? What do you want to do? Are you ready for this? Are you able for it? And I was
Mm.
like, am I what? Give me anything. Give me a chair. I'll need a chair for the next 6 months if that's what it takes. I'm never going back there. Honest to God. I would
Yeah.
have done anything. I would have worn a dress. It didn't matter. So
Mm.
that's why
Mm.
I think that was great. The conversation with him was brilliant.
Mm. That's a really important thing that you mentioned because you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't have anything to sell you, but more than that,
Yeah.
we only we know how hard it is, right? We know this is not an easy thing to do. So we're not going to try and tell you, oh, this is a magic carpet ride, or this is,
Mm.
going to be easy peasy, No, we're going to tell you straight up. And yeah, we don't like to sugarcoat anything. I think you see that from our videos and our testimonials and things. We're not going
Yeah.
to sugarcoat it for you. It's hard.
Yeah.
You've got to make changes to your lifestyle. Um,
Mm.
But as you know now, man, it's worth it.
The biggest thing really is it's on you.
Mm,
And I think that's very important for anybody who's watching this video
mm,
or other videos. Please remember that this is you. We are going to you for guidance, but we are doing it.
yeah.
There's no doubt about it. You're not there. You're not a cheerleader. You're not there. Oh, you're doing wonderful and great. It's very much on you. You encourage where necessary, absolutely.
Mm,
But
mm,
if anything, you're a bit of a stern teacher. You guys have to
yeah.
use the ruler a few times. I think that might surprise some people, but that's what you need, that maternal oversight to kick you a little bit
Mm,
when you're not really doing what you should do.
mm,
That's terribly important for people to understand that they're
yeah.
going to you, it's on them. And
That's right.
they're
Yeah.
there because they want to save their ass and literally
Yeah,
save
that's
their ass,
sure, mate.
so. And that's what I wanted to do, fucking save
Yeah, for
my own
sure.
ass.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
never felt like you were giving me a heart. I just thought, yeah, this is the way it has to be. I have to get through this.
Mm,
And that
mm.
was,
For sure, and that's you make some really important points here because it is so important that we can guide you, we can give you the education, we can hold your hand a little bit, but we can't actually do the hard work for you.
yeah, yeah,
That is, as you said, it's down to you, and you've got to put in
yeah,
the effort, and you've got to have the discipline and the commitment to go
yeah,
through with it. And
yeah,
yeah, if you do that, and you do that long enough, and you do that consistently, you get the result, as you know that.
yeah,
So you decided to join the program, and then you got the email, the guidelines email with bombardment full of information, just like, boom, there you go. Here's all the evidence.
yeah,
And we do focus on an evidence-based approach. We're not going to be like,
yeah,
oh, this guy did this thing. Just because Shamiz did one thing and he healed, we're not going to be like, just because he did that, you have to believe what we say. You know,
mm,
it's all about he did that because of this. There's this amount of evidence to support it,
yeah,
and you need to learn about this evidence so that you understand it
yeah.
yourself. So, I mean, I think that all that educational material was quite a
Huge.
eye opener for you. Yeah. So,
But what's
what
the
did you learn?
fuel? The fuel I found to this was, because you need fuel to keep going, and it does get
Mm,
really crap along the way. But
mm,
the fuel for me was the education.
mm.
So when you're reading or watching these programs and you believe it, and,
Yeah.
and that gives you the fuel to keep going because really once you believe that the foods that you had been using were making you sick and these are the reasons why, and if you use
Mm,
these foods, you will feel and remain well, you
mm.
really can't fall back on your old ways. And there's just
Yeah.
that. There's like a firing squad behind you. If you turn and run back, you're going to get nailed. So you keep going forward no matter what.
Yeah.
That was very, very important. All that stuff from Cowspiracy to all the literature I read and the YouTube videos are fantastic as well
Mm,
because it really it changes you in a much bigger way.
mm. I want you to go into a bit more detail because I mean I think you likened it to watching a movie, a certain movie. Um, so go into
Yeah,
talk about like the kind of understanding you got as like you watch Dr. Greger's videos, you go through the scientific evidence that we give you, um, and it really does open your eyes, doesn't it?
mm. Yeah, well, certainly for someone, and actually, this is probably good for people out there who are quite like me. I mean, I'm an Irish guy. I loved my Guinness. I ate, I love my fast foods and things like that.
Mm,
But I had no idea about food until I did
mm,
this. I had no understanding. I remember you gave me a list of fruit and veg to get in the supermarket.
mm.
I had no idea what it even looked like. I had to Google image a lot of the stuff, like papaya and mango. I was like, what is that?
Mm,
I was actually
yeah.
going into stores looking for tools, as in, to cut things and chop things. And they weren't tools, they were actually the fruit and veg. So the girlfriend was like, no, 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 that's over here. That's the fruit and veg. I'm like, what? And off you'd go, beetroot, what the hell? I had no idea. So even on a very basic level, and this
Yeah,
is coming from someone who didn't never really had a salad in his life before I started with you guys. So,
yeah, yeah.
so from an educational, very basic level of fruit and veg and how to cook them and how to cook them well and safely. and
Mm.
what that does for your gut and what that doesn't do for your gut, and the fiber and the microbiomes. It
Mm.
was unbelievable. And I know you touched upon the movie thing, but for me, it was, come on, it was the Matrix. I mean, do you want to take the blue pill or the green pill? And that's it. It's not just about getting well. And this is what's probably going to really surprise a lot of people who have colitis and Crohn's today and they're feeling terribly unwell, and that's where they're watching, is
Mm.
suddenly you start to feel well, and it's the rest that takes you. You experience a much wider worldview around this.
Mm. Mm.
Right down to the environment. And I know I'm going to sound like a right little hippie now, but you really do start to the point where you're looking at fruit and going, right, where's this come from? I'm not buying that. It's come all the way from Peru. This kind of thing. I was never
Yeah.
like that. Oh, so it just shows you the transformation you undergo, and
Yeah.
also you're learning about the politics, the geopolitics, the governments, what everyone's up to, the food industry, what they're up to, the health industry, what they're up to.
Mm.
Just blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind, to the point where you can almost get a bit obsessive about it, and upset
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. But you
Yeah.
cannot imagine how hoodwinked and tricked you've been,
Mm.
until I worked with you guys. I could not believe, and I think I'm educated. I think I'm traveled. I think I know
Mm.
I'm suspicious of everything, yet
Yeah.
the one thing, the closest thing you have in your life is food. And I was
Yeah.
tricked.
Yeah.
And I was told you have to have calcium in milk, you have to have protein in meat, you have to, you have to,
Yeah.
and even when you guys repeatedly said it to me and I read the documents, I was watching the documentaries, I'd be back on the next week, I'd be like, okay, Shaquille, about the protein thing. You're like, hey, it's okay. Like, you'd be okay. I said, hey, are you sure? That just shows you what
Yeah.
marketing does.
Yeah.
Completely
Yeah.
blinded to it all, and to what's good for you and what's not good for you. Completely blinded.
I think I think the dairy industry is one of the best marketing machines the world has ever seen. Like how you manage to convince an entire population that the mammary secretions of a cow
Mm,
are good for you is
mm,
unreal, my friend. Like I
mm.
was convinced as well. I drank a lot of milk when I
Yeah,
was younger,
yeah,
and never actually. At times you think, what am I actually drinking here? But you're like, nah, it's you just like then the conditioning
yeah,
comes back, right? And
yeah,
it is exactly like the Matrix. It's like don't go past this level of consciousness. Like
yeah,
we'll just keep you down here.
yeah.
But how they managed to convince you that like if you go to they did this experiment where they pretended it was cow's milk, and then after people drink it and like, oh, that's really tasty, and said no, it's
Mm,
dog's milk, and everyone's like spitting it out, like what's the difference?
yeah. I
you
know.
know it's the mammary secretions of one animal or another. Like um
Yeah,
most people wouldn't even drink the milk of a human, but they'll happily drink the milk of cows. It's
I
like
know.
it just makes you like wonder, like why, how did they convince us so
And
easily?
that's the thing,
How
and
did
that's
they
what I
do
mean by
it?
the Matrix, isn't it?
Hmm.
How did we
Hmm.
get here? Like, how did
Yeah.
we get? What happened? Really, what happened? That's
Yeah.
why this becomes a much bigger thing. It's like, how
Yeah.
in God's name did I think all that was okay?
Yeah.
How? This is just insane. Every single thing, everything you pick up in a supermarket is
Yeah.
littered with chemicals. And I
Yeah.
don't know what any of them mean. And I don't know what they
Yeah.
do. And I don't know why what they would do if they're in my body. Yet I was eating them for decades. And I've no
Absolutely.
idea what they were.
There's a
Yeah,
saying, I can't remember who said this, but it goes like this. It says, it's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they've been fooled,
very true.
isn't
Very, very, very true.
it?
Yeah.
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 You pull the wool
Hit
over
the
your
nail.
eyes, and then you've got to work really hard to take that off, you know?
Oh, but right down to the level, if I'm in Lidl or Aldi and I'm getting these healthy foods, if I get lots of bananas or lots of dates,
Yeah.
I've I've been told by like checkout people like that's a lot of sugar or there's a lot of potassium in
Mm.
that, be careful. You could have like beers and chocolate and
Yeah.
not even
Yeah.
regular bread, breads and stuff
Yeah.
like that, regular kind of food, butters and stuff. No
Yeah.
one will ever warn you.
No.
Never. Because they
No.
think that's trusted food. That's okay to eat.
That's
That's
right.
okay. Because nobody warns you about that.
No. I mean,
It's
who cares
crazy.
if the World Health Organization says that processed meat like bacon and sausages and
Yeah.
ham is a class 1 carcinogen? You can pack your
Yeah.
full trolley full of that, no one's going to bat an eyelid. I mean, the Cancer
Exactly.
Council, the Cancer Council has sausage sizzles for cancer research. Like
Yeah.
literally serving you things that cause you cancer for their own research. It's like,
But it's like Michael
What's
Greger
going
said it,
on?
wasn't it? You go to a
Yeah.
funeral of someone who died of a heart attack and you eat the same food that put them in the ground at the funeral. I
Unreal.
mean, that sums it up. That
Yeah,
sums it
it
up.
does.
It's the
It does.
it's blind hypocrisy of it all. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the wider education blew my mind. Yeah, right
Mm.
through with all your government, your conspiracy to your mainly your food and what they did to
Yeah, yeah.
to get us in this place and to brainwash. I mean, I have a lot of friends and family who are still worried sick. Oh my
Mm.
God, as they're knocking back Red Bull cans.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that just sums it up right there. But so, okay, your experience on the program. So you got that kind of eye-opening moment, the Matrix moment, as you say. And
Mm, Morpheus.
yeah, I mean, so more, yeah, you got started, right? You got started on the
You-
program,
Yeah.
and talk about what the experience is like. What is it like? What kind of guidance do you get, and what kind of experience do you have when you're working with us?
Look, I think at the end of the day, in a nutshell, it's that maternal oversight that I certainly needed. I've got good self-discipline, but
Mm,
I would have lacked confidence in doing something that was very difficult. The healing phase of just eating, Jesus, sweet potatoes and stuff. That was
mm,
extremely challenging, and I think
mm,
I needed reassurance
mm,
a lot. Even though I did the diet and I felt it was a hell of a lot easier than I anticipated. I would
mm,
never have gotten the book, read it, and put myself through that. I'd never have had the confidence and discipline. And I certainly think what surprised me was the opening salvo. The opening probably I did a 6 month program. The first 3 months, 4 months even, up to
mm,
about the healing side and just into the post. I didn't find it all that hard. And I know people find that very hard to believe, but I don't know what it was,
mm,
just this overwhelming, obsessive dedication to getting well. But my
mm,
mind started to struggle for the last few months, and
mm,
it surprised me and it caught me off guard. And I
mm,
felt sometimes when we'd have our chats some weeks, I'd almost feel like, there's not really much point to this. I'm doing okay. I'm eating okay. I'm not missing anything. But then,
mm,
bang, the head would go. And by the time we got to our call, you would say the right thing. That kind of reassurance would be made in the sense that, yeah, what you're going through, this is very difficult. And
mm,
a very, very subtle education or gradual in the sense that, the body is a big percentage of it, but the mind needs
mm,
that work as well. So doing
mm.
all this physical stuff and, looking after my body and what I eat, I needed to slow it down a bit. My mind started to race about the future.
Yep.
And sadly, my own father got diagnosed with colitis nearing the end, for the first time of his life. And he was rushed to hospital. And going back to those places initially really messed with my head.
Mm,
But then came this real euphoria around, I got away from this. I broke free. I'm free of this now. And a real
mm,
empathy of him, what he was going through. But at the same time, it was a nice,
mm.
kind of almost like, look what could have been had you not have done this,
Sure.
so that kind of helped me as well. But certainly in
Yeah.
terms of our work together, I think I lent more towards the mind in the end than getting through
Mm,
the diet. My mind
mm,
struggled a couple of times, more than once certainly, and I needed that chat with you. Your experience with other people was invaluable because you've met them all at this stage,
mm, mm,
and you know exactly what it is to go through it. You've done it yourself, as
mm,
Sham has with what he had, very serious ulcerative colitis. So
mm.
I started to need that buddyish thing, that with that kind of buddy thing happen near the latter part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it. Whereas initially
yeah.
it's very educational and technical and theoretical, and okay, you shouldn't eat, and this is good for you, and that's bad for you, and nuts do this, and bananas
Mm,
do that. And it's all
yeah,
very important for someone who hadn't a clue what a fucking nut even looked like. But nearing the end, most definitely, it was all about the mind,
yeah.
clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I made a video. If you haven't seen it about the last part of the healing, I'll just put a link up there for you guys. Um, the final stage of healing is in the mind. There's a saying where the
Mm,
mind goes, the body follows, and I think definitely initially your mind was so in the right place that you were that dedicated to heal that
mm,
you almost went through the whole program without having a significant detox experience. I mean, yeah, you had
yeah,
some symptoms here and there, but
yeah,
overall, it was pretty smooth sailing, wasn't it? Which is
absolutely.
for me, it tells me that mentally you're on your game at that stage when you were, because as you said, a really important thing you said was that 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 feeling of fear disappeared, you know,
Mm.
because that fear holds you in with that illness or that disease or that
Mm.
sickness. Okay,
Mm.
and so I find that the people that go through the most significant symptoms, either they've had it for a long period of time and their body has a lot to do, they've been on an immunosuppressant medication for a long period of time, and therefore your body has to recover from the damage that medication has caused.
Mm.
Or number three, they have a lot of fear about their healing journey. They have a lot of
Mm.
self-doubt about themselves. They don't love themselves. There's a lot of stuff in the background that's holding them back from actually being free.
Mm.
Um, and I kind of make it like you've got to break up from the disease. Like you never had it for a
Yeah,
huge period of time, so it's probably
that's
easier for you
right.
to let
Yeah.
go of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a part of your identity in the same way of someone who's had it for years might be, because it becomes their identity. And so that mental separation needs to happen if you really want to fully heal from this and not have symptoms or have an easier experience
Yeah.
with detox. So, I mean, tell people about what your detox experience is like, because I'm sure people are interested.
God, it was very, as you said, Jesus, it was quite easy going. I must
Mm,
confess,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I was very much prepared for the worst, and that's what you have to be going into this,
yeah.
regardless of other
Mm,
people's experiences. I did kind of even mention it to my manager. I spoke to my parents
mm,
and friends. I said, look, by the law of average says I'm going to get pretty bloody sick before I get better. Just be prepared, because they'd kind of
mm,
gotten used to me being around and well. But for
mm,
me, it was oddly enough, it was I had awful pain in my eyes. It was very dry eyes.
mm, mm,
Initially, every time we cut something significantly, I'd have a day or two or three of I'd had to use drops, a lot of pain. It wasn't
mm,
comfortable. Um, I certainly didn't in terms of, well, actually, yeah, I had a bit of a kind of it was. I, I have a lot of empathy for those who fought in Gallipoli in the Somme, because it was like gas, gas, gas. I swear to God, I've
mm.
never wanted part of my body to just leave me the hell alone. It was like I flatulence constantly for about 2 months.
Mm,
Um, it's another one, and obviously the bathroom, having had the kind of Crohn's I had, constipated, fatigue, nausea. It was
mm,
very unusual for me because I started going to the bathroom for a good 2 or 3 months,
mm.
um, in transition and healing, and a week or two into post, probably up to 6 times a day, and
Yeah,
that even for me was like, God Almighty, Jesus,
yeah,
here we go
yeah.
again. But it was never diarrhea, and it was never rushing, and it was never,
Mm,
alarm in any way, and it was always normal. But it was, yeah, it's 6 times a day for 2, 3 months, like that was it. And then
yeah,
and as soon as I did the post, it started to back away, and is what it is today, between 2, 3 times per day now.
yeah.
But that was it. I had a pretty nasty rash near the end as well. It really got to me, my arms and my legs and my shoulders. And again, it was
Mm,
near the end. And I think a lot of that had to play with my mindset, and my father being unwell, and some other relatives weren't doing too good.
mm,
And I think it
mm,
was just a little bit of that extra pressure coming near the end
mm.
of the whole healing experience.
I also find that people that have been on immunosuppressants, they get that kind of rashy experience towards the end. So it could have been part of that medication coming out of your body
Right.
too, some withdrawals from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the mind
Mm.
plays a role in a lot of the symptoms that you do experience. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so um, absolutely, I think I think because of your dedication and the fact that you didn't really go outside the guidelines too much, and you basically said, you know, this is it for me. I'm all in. Don't have any doubts, and that's
Yeah.
what I think contributed to your more positive experience through your healing journey. Um, and I think, as you said, sometimes you don't remember all the difficulties that you experience. You probably don't. I think I remember more more difficulties. With some abdominal pains and things like that. But
Mm.
yeah, as you said to me, before we started recording this, you can't really remember all the details of how you felt because you feel so good now.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think it was another reason that I got on board with you guys very quickly is And I think that's why I'm doing this video, is because I'm Irish, and I think, Irish were skeptical at the best of times.
Yeah.
And I was, at the beginning, obviously I spoke to Sham, which was great, but he put me in touch with other people that don't do testimonials. They don't do any reviews. You don't know they exist. They simply move on with their life. But you can reach out to them because you guys will put us in touch with them. And I spoke to a lovely guy called Darren, and he's an Irish guy as well. And what I loved about Darren was not just that he was far worse than me, rushed to hospital, he had to get a bag or he would die, all this stuff. He was only 26 years old and that was it. There was nothing that can be done, all this stuff. And now he's perfectly fine. Life's going great. But what I really loved about his story was, as he was speaking to me, he's been healed over 3 years. He couldn't remember the detail. He couldn't remember the hardships. And as anyone who's watching this has Crohn's or colitis, we remember every hospital visit, every drug we're given, every moment, the anxiety, the fear, the lack of sleep, all of that. You don't forget a microsecond of your life. It's just horrible. And when he said, and he kept getting confused, oh, hang on, did I go to the doctor then? Or did I? And you could hear him on the phone going, Jesus, Deck, he goes, it's been so long since I even thought about this. Now, anyone who has Crohn's and colitis, when they hear it's been so long since I thought about this, that for me was just, oh my God, the gates just opened then. And there was simply, as I said, there was no going back. It was such overwhelming belief in something that I've never had in my life, such conviction and that this will work. So, and it wasn't just that. Snippets of your life start coming back. A guy I worked with had cancer. The chemo was killing him. He went plant-based. He's cured. There's other people, you hear, on TV. And as I started to speak to people in work and friends, they all had somebody who was allergic to dairy, who got off meat, who had all these terrible things, terrible asthma, terrible acne, terrible everything. And they stopped eating meat and dairy, or meat or dairy, and they became well again. So I had countless evidence through my life before I even got Crohn's that our lifestyle and our diets are a real menace and a danger to us. So yeah, it was a hell of an epiphany now, I have to say.
Fantastic. So maybe just briefly touch on, as we finish off the discussion about the program, just quickly touch on the different stages of the program that we take you through and what that's like.
Look, the initial one is, no meat, no dairy. I mean, that's the get-go, isn't it, really? It's step one. And it's what most people would find most daunting and worrying. Again, I didn't really, even though that was my main diet, I didn't really feel that pinch. Then it's kind of transitioning away. And what you guys do and do very well is you gauge the individual, where they're at, not in terms just of their disease, but certainly in terms of them, where they're at mentally. You would probe me and ask me the right questions, knowing, okay, I think he's good to go now with the next step. Whereas there could be somebody who started the same day as me, but they may wait much longer to get to that next step. Obviously, the ultimate phase is the healing phase. And where I was greatly relieved was my symptoms didn't worsen, because I only had 2 weeks of that. And I don't know how people go through the months that they have to go through. Obviously, they're very well or whatever, but I had 2 weeks of that. And after that, then it was like, okay, post-heal. Well, not even post, but it was, let's add little bits back in now and again. And again, I thought that that phase was very well done, because had I been on my own, I think I would have gone to town. I would have thought. And I did a little bit. I kind of really congratulated myself on a job really well done, because, I was so proud that I'd done the healing phase and I was in post-healing. And I was really at you every week on, what can I add? What can I add? And I'd have the knife and fork and fucking bib out ready to go. And you'd be like, okay, let's add grapes. Tears going down my face going, oh my God. So, and then obviously into then when you're finishing up at the 6-month line, you're still giving guidance. And then we hooked up again a month later to see how things were going. But that's really the program for me in a nutshell. But I think what's important for people to know is that the program is adaptable. And I knew of other people who were struggling a lot more, just missing diet and having cravings. And you guys can create little cheats here and there and get them over the line and things like that.
Mm.
I'm fortunate enough I didn't have that. I was okay. I was just lucky. So it's very adaptable, I think, is crucial for people to understand. And I think the book, when you're reading the book, you think, Jesus Christ, you know, how can I do that? You just don't, you know, it's not to the letter of the law of the book, and you're very much adapting. And you've added new science yourselves that you guys have come across. And I think Sham's very open and transparent about his own life and diet, and he enjoys, you know, a vegan here and there, or a Domino's vegan or whatever it may be here and there. And that's okay later on, but obviously not through the program.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was it in a nutshell for me, but I just think it was certainly, you guys, it's just very important with you guys. You're mentoring, you've got the finger on the pulse of the individual you're working with. So you could have another Irish guy my age, my background, but you're working very differently with them. And I think that's very important for people to know, is that it's not going to be the same for everyone. And don't be overwhelmed if you think, oh God, you know, I have to do this healing thing and I won't be able. You're there to support, help in that way, you know, and to adapt to their situation. I've seen other people who have very, very demanding jobs, and let's be face it, you know, pricks of bosses. My job was very supportive and my boss was very supportive, but they didn't adapt to them, you know, resting late or not having, you know, eating their shakes or doing whatever. You guys had to adapt to their style. That's very important. And you could not get that from a book. You couldn't get it from a book.
No, you can't. And the book's just a guideline, but you have to realize that you have to meet people where they are. You can't just be like, okay, you're going to go from eating McDonald's 5 times a week to the healing diet tomorrow. It's not going to happen. You need to find out, okay, how can we get you from this stage to this stage to this stage, you know? And yeah, as you said, you have to be understanding about where someone is mentally, like maybe not ready to eat, you know, 10 bananas in a day straight away, you know? Maybe it might take them 2 or 3 months and then they'll get there, you know? But that's just how it is. But absolutely, it's important to understand that. The next thing I want to talk about is what your life is like, because, you know, it's really important to try and express to people how good it gets once you get through that hurdle mentally and physically and overcoming the disease. Yes, you've got to go through tough time. I say, go through the short-term grief for the long-term relief, because if you choose the short-term relief, whether that be some kind of toxic diet or medication or whatever it is, if something gets you that relief quickly, then you're going to be going through cycles of long-term grief. Okay, so I say short-term grief for long-term relief rather than short-term relief for long-term grief.
That was hard. Admit it, that was hard. I couldn't say that. Well done.
I've had a lot of practice of that one.
The concentration in your face.
yeah. Get it right, Trickle. Get it right. But yeah, I mean, what's your life like now?
It's funny, isn't it? It's hard to believe that something like traffic or the weather can piss you off when you're suffering from Crohn's. My God, if you have a good week, and by good week, it's, you know, people understand what that means. It's not like for the mortals who don't go through anything. Yeah, it's incredible, because I didn't realize the cloud I was living in the sense of my future. I never thought past a week or two, as I said earlier in this, your holidays where I hope I make it and I hope I enjoy it. And you know what you live? You almost live your life in kind of looking back, you know, in hindsight. So you kind of look back and say, oh, that was a good day, or that was a good holiday. But while you're going through it, you don't particularly enjoy it, because you've always got this worry and concern about you.
Speaking of holidays, of holidays, you actually went on holiday during the program, didn't you?
Oh, I did, yeah. I went on a few holidays. I went to Ibiza, of all places. Ibiza. And I tell you, that's, if you want to test someone, send them to Ibiza and let their mates go out partying in the nightclubs, and you stay at home and put on your sweet potatoes. I'm telling you, if you could do that, you could do anything. I'm going to try and get to the moon next, I think. But yeah, but that's the thing. I think sometimes people think, oh shit, 6 months, my life's on hold, I'm going to be miserable and this is going to be crap. But I
Yeah.
found after a couple of months, Jesus, I'm okay. I'm holding up okay. And yeah, if I can do a
Yeah.
holiday, I'll do it. So I did.
Yeah.
I went to Germany and I went to Ibiza another time. And it was terrific. Yeah. And
Mm.
it didn't faze me at all. I didn't feel that, lust to go drinking or missing anything like partying or anything like that. So yeah,
Mm.
it's very, very easy to do. But and that was it. My horizons were starting to broaden even during the transition and healing phase. It was suddenly like
Mm.
where I'm now at the point where I'm planning. I'm from Ireland. I've lived in Ireland my whole life. I've traveled a good bit, but I never stayed and lived abroad anywhere. And
Mm.
now I'm heading off later in the year. Hopefully going to Germany later this year for good, or certainly for a number of years. And okay, when I started this diet, day one with you guys, not in a million years would I've thought this is going to be the end game or this one day I'll do this. No, it was
Mm.
simply I just don't feel sick anymore. So it's not even that your day-to-day life is better by not feeling sick and not having that mental trauma of having to go to oncology wards and be
Mm.
told your white cells are up, this is down, this is left, this is right, we need you back in next week for more blood. All of that's
Mm.
gone. So imagine the relief you immediately feel and that kind of
Mm.
constant emotional bombardment is gone. But now you're kind of
Mm.
going, oh, I'm gonna take off traveling again, or I'm gonna go live in another
Mm.
country. As a Crohn
Mm.
sufferer, ulcerative colitis sufferer, it's not never even on your radar. It's not even close. You don't even think like that.
Mm.
The endurance of basic life, is sometimes something to be proud of. Just to get through some weeks is a hell of an achievement. And now
Mm.
my future is bright, and I have one, and I really do. And I look
Yeah.
into the distant future, and that's something I hadn't done from the day I got sick. There was no future. I mean, there was
Mm.
literally getting by, getting by, getting by, and hopefully making it to the holidays. So
Mm.
it's and just what that does for your mental health is extraordinary to finally start to think about a future.
Mm.
Because you quickly forget when you're suffering from something like this because you're consumed with the routine and the drugs and the doctor visits and everything. You just forget about what normal life is like. And
Mm.
I think I said it to you once upon a time, and traffic was starting to piss me off, So the office was cold. I mean, how irritating. And then you start going, holy cow, this is brilliant. I'm starting to get pissed off about the basics again. And that's how
Yeah. Yeah.
you're starting to get well. The neighbor's dog is really annoying you again. You thought, oh, this is great. It's great to be annoyed now. It's a nice feeling to be bored. Like I hadn't had the
Yeah.
feeling of being bored in a long time because you're never given the opportunity to be bored. The minute you've
Mm.
downtime worrying or you're doing something else or some other blood
Mm.
result came back crap or CRP is up and suddenly
Mm.
you're starting to get bored. I mean, it's a great feeling being bored. I never thought I'd find it. So look, in terms of life, pre and post, it's night and day. And that added thing about the matrix, the blue pill and green pill, the world just doesn't seem like the same place at all anymore to me now. And I know
Mm.
I'm getting pretty out there, but it is true what a lot of other people have said on testimonials. You change at a much wider level, um,
Mm.
and become so much more empathetic and concerned about things and life in general. It is having an incurable disease, a chronic disease, is life changing enough, but to overcome that is you
Mm.
can't put it into words. You can't put it into words. To be told that for the rest of your life you're on drugs and it'll be doctors and eventual surgery, to suddenly, why don't you go away and travel, or why don't you go and live someplace else? You don't have to worry about any of this anymore. I mean, it's like winning the lotto. It really is like winning the lotto.
Better than.
Incredible. Yeah.
Um, all right, and just
Is that
just
the
to
cheer? Get all emotional now.
wait, I think I see one coming down. Okay. um, Finally, just some advice, mate. Like, you've been through a lot, and lots of ups and downs and things like that. But as you say, you're free from it now, and you have literally got your life back, and you can do
Yeah.
things that you hadn't dreamed about in the
Yeah.
last couple of years. So,
Yeah.
you know, just a piece of advice or some encouraging words to people watching this who are going through something similar to what you went through.
If people are watching this, more than likely they're watching this because either they need an answer, or that they've had enough of what they've been going through, but they'll hesitate because they'll think this is I'm not able for this. I'll never get through this. I couldn't do that. All the things we all think about something. And they're wrong, because if they write down or just record their voice and talk about their experiences and what they've been through with Crohn's and colitis, they'll know that they're tougher than anyone else. So to do something like this is nowhere near as hard as they could possibly imagine, because the hard bit is being rushed to hospital. The hard bit is being told by a doctor you're getting a bag. The hard bit is being told that, look, you're going to an oncology ward for the rest of your days. Now, eventually your body will reject it. You'll turn into shock, God knows what else. And then we'll have to open you up. That's the hard bit, So going around and eating potatoes for a few months and bananas is a cakewalk when you've been through that. So I would say to anyone looking at this and think that they're not cut out for it, think again. You've been through hell. This is nothing in comparison to what you've been through. You will be able to do it without a shadow of a doubt. That's probably my number one bit of advice, really, is that I think everyone has that doubt in anything that they do. But when you really look back on your recent trauma, because that's what it is, and you remember all those terrible, terrible, terrible moments, because they are countless. I mean, I spoke to a number of people that I know, even with Crohn's, and defecating in the street is a pretty fucking traumatic experience. So when it comes down to actually eating bananas for a couple of months, believe me, you can do it. Believe me, you can do it, and you will.
I think that's wonderful advice, mate. I think, I haven't heard anyone put it like that, but that's coming straight from the heart. I think that's really amazing.
I believe it.
All right, well, this is my favorite part, because I get to thank you for sharing your story and coming on the channel and really being so open about your experience. And you've done an amazing job. Shamiz and I are very proud of you. Okay.
Stop! You're gonna make me cry.
you now have a life after Crohn's.
I'm telling you, you better believe it. Yeah, absolutely. And look, needless to say, you've heard it 1,000 times, I'm sure, but I really do thank you sincerely, because how quickly you forget how hard it was. And only recently I played back, and I'd encourage anyone to do it who wants to start the diet. I recorded myself on day one of the diet, and the desperation in my voice, the sadness in my voice, the fear was unbelievable. And fast forward now 8 months later, because I'm 2 months finished the diet, and I'm a different beast, a different human being. And when I played back that voice, I just couldn't believe, how bad I was, and how scared I was and everything, And really, before you and Sham, it is true, there was simply no hope. There was no hope. And thank God for you. Thank God Sham got sick.
Yeah. Oh, we say the same thing. We say the same thing. He says the same thing. It's true.
People's tragedy can lead to really beautiful things, and I think your story is one of them. So thank God for it. Yeah. And of course, I'd be more than happy if people come on board or want to speak to other people to get a gauge with this. I'd be more than happy to do it and speak to whoever about anything. Be delighted to do it. Pay back a little bit of certainly what I owe this life.
Fantastic, mate. Well, once again, thank you so much, mate. You're an inspiration, and obviously we'll stay in touch, but really appreciate you taking the time, man, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks a million. And anytime, man, and please do reach out, whatever, if there's other people coming along. I'd be delighted to help in any way I can. I really would.
This channel is about helping people who suffer from colitis. Drop me a comment below about your colitis experience, and go to my website, High Carb Health, for more info and a free 30-minute consultation. And don't forget, there most certainly is a life after colitis.